What's up, you guys? This is your girl, Civil Disobedience, bringing you another rant and whine. I want you guys to be sure that you subscribe to my channel, Sherlock Homegirl. Leave your thoughts and opinions below. I love a good conversation. And share this information. So basically, I had a chance to watch the Salt-n-Pepa Lifetime docu-movie, biopic, whatever you want to call it. And then I also had a chance to watch Wendy Williams' biopic. In honesty, I think Wendy Williams' biopic was way better and more true to form than Salt-n-Pepa's, because Salt-n-Pepa, the actresses who played them, did not look anything like them. Especially Peppa's character, the actress who played Peppa. I'm sorry, love. I don't know who that was, but that was not you. Peppa was kind of a big bone girl back in the day. And as a big sized woman myself, I have weight on me. It kind of threw me back to see such a skinny Peppa from day one. Now, she wasn't fat, but she was a thick woman, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I kind of feel like, you know, the true to form portrayal of people is definitely important when it comes to biopics. Also, I wanted to just basically bring us some more information on the Tinee and Tinee situation. So basically, they're saying that Lisa Bloom has taken the cases of the women who are accusing Tinee of sexual assault and other various acts, trafficking and all of those things. I'm not saying I don't believe the women. What I'm saying is they're allowing lawyers to turn something into a court case for their financial gain and for the notoriety and popularity of prosecuting famous people, as opposed to just owning up to your truth, admitting that it happened to you, and not putting yourself in those situations anymore. I find it very hard to blame one person in a scenario where you're told if you stay, you have to take drugs and take off your pants, and you choose to stay. Because we have to start talking about how we validate bad behavior, and now we want to make it a crime. And it doesn't just happen with famous people. It happens in everyday society. One thing a lot of women do, like we can take the example of Kirk and Rashida in this sense with Jasmine. And we can say, okay, well, it's not Jasmine's fault that she cheated with Kirk. And it's not. In the same sense, Jasmine helped to validate Kirk's bad behavior. So, in the future, if she was to continue a relationship with Kirk, Rashida was to separate from Kirk, can she expect a better behavior from Kirk when she helped to validate bad behavior? That's all I'm saying about the situation. I think what we have here is a lot of women with Kells, with Cosby, with T.I., and now they're saying Marilyn Manson too. They're basically saying the same thing, that he was grooming women, that children, young girls were being brought to him at a certain time for them to either be involved with him or to be groomed to be involved with him. And a lot of his endorsements are being taken away. Like I say, I don't feel sorry for the men. I don't feel it's anything to really be sad about. But I do, as a woman, want to reiterate to women that owning up to your portion of blame and fault in scenarios, even if you were the mother in the situation. Because the problem I'm having with children being brought to men is, where are the parents? And they don't even want us asking that. But what's happening here is a lot of validation of bad behavior. We're validating parents not keeping up with their children. We're validating people grooming children. And then once the person has gotten old enough and gotten enough popularity behind them, now we want to make it an issue. I feel like there should be laws enacted that blocks fans from even being able to interact with famous people at this point. And if I was T.I. or Tinee or Marilyn Manson or any of these people, and I was truly saying that I was innocent, I would invest in investigators to follow up the parents, to follow up the women, to follow up. Because see, the problem I'm having with them saying that they know for a fact they were involved with children is, you saw him have sex with a kid. Shouldn't you be taking some time too if you saw that? If you can really confirm and validate that this person has had sex with a minor, shouldn't you also face time? So it's not, I don't want anyone saying that I'm trying to take up, because I'm not taking up for anybody. I'm just asking obvious questions that they're obviously not wanting us to ask. Like in the scenario with T.I. and Tinee. If you're there and he says you have to stay, if you're going to stay, then you must take off your pants. And your homeboy says she's good, wouldn't you still want to go? And some of this just isn't adding up to me. And so when you say a person has been sexually assaulted, in my mind, I'm picturing the person who's not able to leave the room, who is made to witness some type of sexual act, who's threatened with that sexual act, who's threatened if they tell that with this sexual act. That's to me is sexual assault, so on and so forth in that order. Rape, you say no, stop, don't, and they perform the sexual act on you. But you choosing to stay in a messed up environment because this is T.I. and why would you leave? Or you choosing to get involved with R. Kelly because this is R. Kelly, why should I leave? What do you want the rest of us to do with that? It's really not even of a consequence and interest to me other than to teach young girls. Because when I was growing up, older women would tell us stories of what they've gone through in relationships. And it was always to teach us to not put ourselves in those situations and scenarios. It was to warn us of the dangers. And one of the things that I don't think we're talking about enough is how these women are going around men with millions of dollars and they don't have any money. I would never choose a guy to be with in a isolated environment who is able to demand so much more than me. Not because I'm afraid of him, but because if there's something that goes on that I don't like, and see, that's the type of person I am. It could be a sneeze. I'm the type of person, if you're not my man, if I'm just kicking it with you, say for instance, we just in a room together, and T.I. was to come in and say something stupid, finna go. Finna go. I'm not finna fly to Atlanta and be on T.I. and Tiny's dime, or leave a concert and go somewhere that I don't even know where I am or how to get away from here. I gotta call an Uber. And then they said one girl was crying because they wouldn't give her back her phone so she could call an Uber to leave. Really, sis, you could have left, called the police, came back with the police, and got your phone. You understand what I'm saying? You could have left, reported your phone stolen by the company, and they would have tracked the phone down to there. The police would have done that. So it's not that I'm saying I don't believe the women. I do believe the women. I definitely believe their stories. I do not believe anyone would go through all of the trouble of making that up. What I'm saying, and not judging anybody, is if this was the situation, if this was made known to you, how is this sexual assault? How do they owe you something because you continued in, like, if I'm in an abusive situation, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or a partnership in a business, regardless, if I'm being mistreated, then my job is not to sit up and say to a person, oh, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to take this because this is T.I. He's making sure that I'm able to eat. He's making sure that I'm able to do this. He's making sure that I'm able to do that. You can record things. You can go in and validate it and file civil suit. Why in God's name would you stay? And then several of these women are saying that they got into it with Tinee over taking drugs and still stayed, took the drugs, and dealt with Tinee and T.I. This is where I'm having a problem with the situation, and this is why I'm saying that you have to admit that fans, you all create these monsters. You do. You create these people, because if T.I. was just a garbage guy, if T.I. was just a doctor, let's just say T.I. was a medical doctor who had just gotten off his shift and Tinee was his stay-at-home wife, would you be willing to take that crap off of them? You wouldn't. You took it because it's T.I. and Tinee. You took it because it's Marilyn Manson. You took it because it's R. Kelly, because it's Dr. Cosby, and you were expecting some. And another thing I would love to know from the scenario is, if you didn't have anything to enhance your situation coming into these scenarios with these people, knowing what they were expecting, especially with the situation with T.I. and Tinee, we've heard stories. They've always been very open about the fact that they don't mind having a little playing and whatever in the bedroom. So if you know this is a part of the scenario, why would you allow yourself to be subjected to a person once you see they're not going to be nice to you? What did you expect? And if it wasn't what you expected, why didn't you leave? Now, here's the thing with the questions that I'm asking. This is to help them process what happened in that situation so that they don't end up in that situation again. Forget Tinee, forget T.I., forget Lisa Bloom, because I don't believe for 1 second Lisa Bloom cares about the mental well-being and the future progress in emotional support and self-esteem of these women. Not with the situation with R. Kelly, with Dr. Cosby, because for one, court cases are very emotionally nerve-wracking. Okay? I've gone to court for small things and only been there for 1 day. And I can tell you the buildup of that 1 day court hearing was so stressful. The sitting and anticipation was so stressful. It was only after a few hours had passed that I even began to decompress from the stress level that I was on. And that was just for child support. Now imagine a person having to continuously go back to court, continuously retell their story, continuously having to relive these events. Their entire lives are on a standstill because people want to do what? I'm all about emotional healing. And what I see with these court cases is a lot of emotional havoc being wreaked on the women and a lot of issues being brought out into a entertainment stage. It's not for an informational platform. It's not for a condemnation platform. It's really just to tell their business. And so I don't want nobody thinking I'm judging the women. I was in this group and I just simply was like, women have to learn to start speaking up as soon as things don't go how they like. So many people accused me of victim shaming. That's not victim shaming. That's letting them know you're responsible for you. I don't see how people have gone to places with people and just because they have money, you expect them to be responsible for you. All these women catching flights. I'm going to just be honest with you. I'm very skeptical of people. I'm one of those people who always looks at a person side-eyed. Okay, I can know you for years, and I still will second guess your motives based on your actions. Okay? And once I see something that's not adding up to what you're telling me, I'm one of those people, you'll look around and what happened to you? I don't even know where Fanny went. Damn right. Fanny went home. I'm going to give you a good example. I was at the club one night, and these 3 girls, I was at ULM, shout out ULM, University of Louisiana at Monroe. And these 3 girls wanted to ride with me to the club. And here's the thing about it. I had a 2-seater stick shift pickup truck at the time, okay? So I told the first girl who asked, I was like, well, yeah, you can definitely ride with me. Then the homegirl was like, okay, well, we want to ride too. I said, well, I only have a 2-seater. And they was like, well, is it a car? I'm like, no, it's a pickup. We'll ride on the back. I said, for real? And they say, yeah, we'll ride on the back. The club was not that far away from the school, you know, in a car. And so we drove to the club, and I think that was the night that Boosie was in town, right? And he wasn't as famous as he is now. He was just on his way up, okay? I kind of just dated myself and told my age, but I'm 39, baby, and I look good. And it was like a really, really, really high and intense night because there were a lot of people there from a lot of different places. And there was a little hood club in Monroe, Louisiana, so you know how that was finna go. So, of course, we see when it breaks out because we're right there. Everybody's right there. There's the open space. We see the gentleman about to fight. I grabbed my homegirl's hand, the one that rode up front with me, and I was like, y'all, come on, let's go. She jacked away from me and was like, nah, it's cool. Let's see what's going to happen. Baby, by the time I made it back to that room, they was calling my roommate. My roommate was on the phone with her. And she was like, oh, his Fanny now. She's a Haitian. She from Miami. His Fanny now. Fanny, they're talking about you. You left them. I was like, hey, yeah, I left them all day. I told them to come on. They wanted to stay. That's the type of person I am. That's the type of person I am. And I'm sorry. I understand. I respect people who feel like it's their job to pacify people who stay in a situation that you know is not going to end well. Just because you think it's going to end badly for someone else, you stick around. Then you see it ends badly for you. Now the whole world is supposed to come out, join hands, and become the Justice League to fight your bad decision making. I feel like Lisa Bloom and all of these women who are constantly making poor decisions when it comes to sex and men with money are clogging the judicial and justice system for actual sexual assault victims, rape victims, victims of pedophilia and molestation. I feel that women who actually because once upon a time there were women who were fighting for the freedom to decide how they wanted to have sex and when they wanted to have sex and with whom they wanted to have sex, with how many partners, at one time even. So if this has been a part of the scenario, if you know this is part of the scenario, if you know this is part of what is the expectation for some people, there is a mist being formed around those of us who like those clear-cut lines that say, this is what I do want to do, this is what I don't want to do. So when people say to you, if you don't do this, then you should leave and you stay, how do they know you aren't okay and in accordance and in agreement with what they are doing if you don't vocalize that? So I don't think that's me judging people. That's me asking therapeutic questions. And yes, I have been to therapy. And I can say I have learned to make better decisions by asking myself, how did you end up in this messed up situation, Fanny? How did you do this to yourself? What did you do? Because we're not talking about a situation. And so people are angry at me because I'm saying, leave the court for the people who have actually, now if you do civil court and you're just trying to file civil cases and see what kind of money you can get from people, cool. But all these court cases, because you decided to stay in a negative situation and environment, you need therapy, sis. T.I. needs therapy, sis. Tiny needs therapy. R. Kelly needs therapy. Dr. Cosby needs therapy. And all these these formations of sides, it's the pedagogy of the oppressed. It's allowing people to learn I can click type just because I know that I feel like this person is right. When it was some wrong on a lot of sides in those situations, in those scenarios. And I feel as a woman, it's better for you to own up to your mistakes as a woman. And see, I'm not talking about, I was raised by a father and really the legacy of one grandfather and a grandfather who was actually living, and they were all very tough men. And being raised by men who expected to only have sons and men around them, and then here come girls, nothing but girls, and they're looking at you like, oh my gosh, she can have a baby. She can fill our house up with babies. Her whole life can be raising babies if we don't teach her how to watch herself. These men didn't sugarcoat nothing. Number one, my grandfather, Deacon Walter Jackson, shared with my mother and her sisters, and this is a tough one. I hope you're ready for it. A woman ain't doing nothing but standing up over a hole. Hole. And men will line up from your front door all the way around the world, and all of them will ask you the same thing. It's up to you what you do with your hole. So that's the number one right there. That's my mother taught me that because her father died the year that I was born. 82 is the year I was born. Granddaddy was gone 82. My father had the second best quote when it comes to a woman dealing with men. He said, baby girl, the worst thing you can do is get out here in these streets wanting to get drunk or high. Because he used to be on drugs. He ain't always been no pastor now. He can give you some scripture. But he used to give us that real deal, Holyfield, what it takes for you to survive in these streets. You ain't seen nothing until you've seen a woman handled over a man's money when it comes to her getting drunk or getting high. So if you gonna be out in these streets drinking or doing any drugs, buy your own work, buy your own liquor. Don't need a man for that. That's number 2. Number 3 was Grandpa, Reverend T.J. King. My dad's name is Reverend Eddie James King. So this is my dad's dad here. Walter Jackson is my mom's dad, okay? Grandpa used to say, I'm not fattening up no frogs for snakes. So you better learn how to think. Now, I'm not trying to say because I've gone through things. But I took my power back from a lot of scenarios by just simply stopping the subjection of my person to their power. And that's what a lot of women are not being given the opportunity to learn how to do in these situations, by constantly allowing yourself to humble yourself and subjecting yourself to this person's power because, oh, this is R. Kelly, or this is Dr. Cosby, or this is T.I. These are just human beings. These are just human beings. They ain't got nothing else going on in life but life. They earning a wage just like everybody else's. It just so happens their wage happens to be a little higher than most of us are able to earn. So if you learn how to put it in the proper perspective, those irrational, erratic requests, and speak up. If you're in a room with these people, I wish I was in a room where T.I. would have said some stupid stuff like, you got to take your pants off to stay. Take your pants off. Stick some deck Patron on ice. And we can do whatever I like, but I got to take my pants off. I'd have walked out of there talking major noise. Because I'm like that. I tell people all the time, yes, I have a reserved side because I've been taught etiquette and I've been taught the courtesies of social situations, yada, yada, yada. All this political correctness and learning how to tolerate people have stopped people from speaking up. And women, we fought too hard to have a voice that we can actually project onto others how we feel and what we need for us to allow a person to turn us into a court case. Period. So this is your girl, Civil Disobedience, on my channel, Sherlock Homegirl. You know I started out talking about Wendy Williams and Salt-n-Pepa, but hey, this is really what was on my mind. I want you to leave your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe to Sherlock Homegirl. Peace.